Welcome to Reddit After Hours. This is r/TrueOffMyChest, where OP gets a friend request from his dead ex-girlfriend nearly 10 years after she had passed away. Our first Reddit post comes from The Drunken Otter, titled, I got a friend request from my dead ex-girlfriend. In 8th grade, I met this girl, North. She was in my band class, and the two of us really hit it off. I asked her out on a movie date, and from there, we became boyfriend and girlfriend. She was my first girlfriend, and things were going all right. That wasn't until her dad got a new job across the country in California. North moved away, but we decided to try out long-distance dating through our freshman year. Unfortunately, we were not built for long-distance dating. I couldn't protect her from her bullies, hug her when she was crying, or tell her that it was going to be all right when she told me about her depression. We got into arguments about God knows what, but decided to keep the relationship going because her dad was trying to transfer closer back to our hometown. That was until she stopped texting me around Christmas, and her sister sent me a funeral program asking me to go to California. North's sister told me that she ended up unaliving herself because the bullying was getting to be too much, and that I wasn't there for her when she needed me. It broke my heart that I couldn't go to California for the funeral, and for the past 8 years, I've mourned her loss. I spent the entirety of my high school career trying to rebuild myself from all the damages. I went to meetings for people who have lost family members and loved ones. I went to therapy for 4 years to try to help process this loss. I had to learn how to become dependable because I didn't want this to happen again. And after working on myself for 4 years, I asked out one of my classmates, Lucy. We started dating towards the tail end of our senior year and are about to celebrate our 4-year anniversary in April. Last night, I got a notification from Facebook saying that I got a new friend request. I opened the app and found out that it was from North. She looks older, but it's undeniable that there are pictures of her as an adult with her fiance and her newborn daughter. I spent 8 years of my life believing that she was dead. But here she is with undeniable proof that she has been living a great life without me. My stomach is in knots, my heart is sinking to the ground, and my mind is racing trying to figure out what happened and what I should do. Do I accept the friend request? Do I ignore it and try to move on? I feel completely lost and feel like my entire life has been a lie. I spent the entire night looking at pictures of her and her family, floored that she would do this to me. Update. Thank you all who have responded. I wanted to get to each and every one of you, but for now, I hope this update will do. For now, I have decided to wait until Lucy gets home from work before I make any decision on whether or not to accept the friend request. I want to know what she thinks, and I know I can always depend on her to keep a level head. But until then, I kind of just want to sort out my feelings. I remembered the day that I found out about North's supposed death. It was a few days before Christmas, and the snow had just started to hit the ground. I remember walking to the edge of the neighborhood along the main street. I sat in the sidewalk, watching the cars, thinking about how if I walked onto the road, they wouldn't be able to stop. I was sitting there on the sidewalk, contemplating for what felt like hours. It was there I decided that I wanted to keep living. It was the most important choice of my entire life. But now, that choice feels hollow. It feels meaningless. Every decision that I've made since then has come from that choice I made 8 years ago, and now it feels empty and without promise. I'll keep you guys updated on what Lucy and I decide. Please don't think for a second that I plan to do anything drastic. I really don't. I want to keep making that choice to live, but for now, I just need to figure out my meaning. Update number 2. I accepted the friend request after Lucy and I talked about it. We agreed that the possibility of getting some sort of closure would be worth it. So I accepted the friend request, and I sent out a text saying hello. About half an hour later, I received a notification that North responded. We started talking a bit, talking about how our lives have turned out. Turns out, her and her fiance were in town visiting family, and it started to make her think about all the hurt that she cost me, and that she wouldn't feel comfortable moving on with her relationship without knowing if I was okay. She tried to apologize, saying that we were dumb kids, and that it seemed easier to ghost me instead of breaking up with me. She told me all about how, in some messed up teenage way, She thought giving me an explanation to her ghosting me would make it easier to move on. And so her and her sister concocted this whole story. I told her about the years of therapy, the years of loneliness, and how guilty I felt when I started dating again. I told her about how I used to think she was the one for me, even through the nights of us arguing, and that she left me more hurt than if she had just thrown me away. And I told her that in some weird way, I'm thankful to her. Her death changed me for the better, and I would not be the man I am today if it wasn't for her. I then texted, having said all that, I will not accept your apology. It's a shallow attempt to free your guilty conscience before you get married. If you were really sorry, you would have said something sooner. You would have apologized sooner. Or you would have not done it at all. You took the coward's way out, and I do not forgive cowards. She said she understood, but hoped that one day I could move past the hurt she caused me and find it in my heart to forgive her. I took screenshots of the whole conversation and sent it to her fiancé. I don't know if he knows the full story between me and her, but now he can have enough of an idea that they can start that conversation. I hope they figure out how to move past it. After all, they look very happy together, and the mistakes of a teenager should not affect her current life. However, I'd be lying if I said there wasn't part of me that was hoping that it crashes and burns. I know this is not the update that some of you guys wanted. Some of you really wanted me to bully her through conversation or play my games to mess with her, but that is not who I am, nor is it who I want to be. On the bright side, I can now truly move on from that relationship that costed me 8 years of my life and put this whole story of North behind me. OP, I'm glad you found your closure. I get it, teenagers do really stupid things, and I'd be lying if I said that I didn't do a lot of stupid things as a teenager and frankly as an adult. However, that is a really evil thing that she did to you and put you through. I don't blame you for not forgiving her. I probably wouldn't either. But at least you were able to find your own inner peace and move past it. Our next Reddit post comes from Deleted, titled, I ran into my cheating ex-parents this evening, and they told me they miss seeing me around. I dated Cindy for almost 3 years. We had ups and downs like any other couple, but I thought things were good. Her family adored me, and her parents, who I call Jim and Michelle, told me how they thought that I was really good for Sydney. 6 months ago, I caught her smuggling her guy into my apartment when she thought I would be at work. We had separate places, and she had the spare key to my place for emergencies. I had been using PTO that was about to expire, and I hadn't told her. Imagine my surprise that she and her guy barged into my room before they see me on the couch. She gasped. He looked like he had just got caught with his hand in a cookie jar. I made her give me my key, and I kicked them out, and I blocked her. I think they were exercising some weird cheating kink by going to my apartment. They probably did this before. I went to the bar today after work to eat my weight in French fries and down a couple beers. It was located 2 blocks from my apartment complex, so I wouldn't need to drive if I had gotten drunk. I'm over sitting at the bar, and I have someone tap me on my shoulder. I look over, and it's Jim and Michelle. It took me a moment to recognize them. I asked what they were doing here. They told me someone at some point recommended this bar. It was probably me months ago, and they wanted to check it out. They invited me over to their table, and I figured, why the hell not? We talked about work, and they asked about how my mom was doing. I think we all knew this conversation was going to turn to Sydney, and her mom spilled the beans. She's now in a relationship with the guy that she was cheating on me with. Jim and Michelle absolutely despise him. He's very rude and crass and makes for a very poor dinner guest. He's overtly affectionate and possessive of Sydney. At Christmas, he drunkenly hit on Sydney's aunt/Jim's sister and made things uncomfortable. Sydney forbade her folks and their extended family from asking about me or asking why the heck she would leave me for some fratty butthead like him. Sydney's folks feel immensely disappointed in her and told me that they always wished that I had stayed and that I was such a help with the family and family gatherings. They were even nice enough to cover my tab. I got home a few minutes ago, and I actually feel better now than I have been. I suppose this is what winning a breakup feels like, which I acknowledge is petty, but what the hell. OP, I suspect that your ex found out that the grass is, in fact, not greener on the other side, and she doesn't want anyone to ask about her because she really doesn't want to admit it. Our next Reddit post comes from Pure Collection 8696, titled, Becoming a Young Obese Woman Changed My Mind About Fat People. Last year, I gained over 60 pounds. The stress of graduate school and my history of unhealthy eating habits had me eating entire takeout pizzas or crumble cookies, the 4-packs, most nights. I completely stopped going to the gym and I spent most of my free time watching TV or on my phone. I was oblivious to the way that my body was changing, how I could no longer button my work pants, oblivious to how bright red streaks began appearing on the sides of my abdomen and behind my knees, oblivious to how exhausted I was walking up a flight of stairs to my own apartment. But none of these changes bothered me more than the way people started to treat me. When I talked to new people, whether at work or school events, they would often try to discredit my stories or flat out ignore me. One time, I was making a joke to a pair of people, and midway through the conversation, they literally turned away and began talking with themselves. It was like I suddenly became the world's most hated person. There's also the added expectation that, as a woman, that you must at least have a pretty face if you're going to be fat, and vice versa. I have always been below average per societal beauty standards, which I feel has exacerbated this crappy treatment that I've gotten from people. When I was a healthy BMI, I never recognized how much fat people really had to go through. You're at a constant battle with yourself and the world. It doesn't matter who you are or what you've accomplished. The first thing people see is that you're fat, and it will cloud their entire evaluation of you. OP, not to sound like a jerk, but the way you talk about fat people kind of makes me assume that when you weren't larger, you kind of felt the same way about larger people. When I was a kid, I was one of those larger kids, and other kids made fun of me. As an adult, I eat pretty healthy. I go to the gym regularly. But, I've always abided by the saying, when in public, treat others how you want to be treated. And just based off this post, it kind of sounds like you were kind of mean to larger people. I don't know, OP. I hope you weren't. But if you were, kind of sounds like you're getting what you were giving. And if not, and I'm misjudging the situation, I'm sorry for what you're going through. And, I hope you can try to make the best of the situation. I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong in the comments, but just the way this reads, it just sounds like you weren't very nice to others before you became a larger person yourself. Our next Reddit post comes from TK04, titled, Benadryl broke my brain and reality is not the same to me anymore. About a year ago, I was diagnosed with cancer, but believe it or not, this is not what the story is about. A part of my treatment included a really weird drug that the body doesn't tolerate very well. The way they combat this is by giving you Benadryl before taking the drug, like a lot of Benadryl. So I walked into the treatment center with my dad and sat in the recliner chairs that they had, my dad sitting on a stool beside me. The nurse handed me my Benadryl along with some other drugs to prepare my body for the 2 hours of chemo. I took the Benadryl, put my headphones on, and tried to sleep. I was playing a playlist of a bunch of Queen songs, and hoped that it would take me on some kind of journey. I had a weird dream where I was sitting in the same recliner just watching everyone pass me by. I could see the nurses walking around and could hear them talking to other patients. The music I was listening to now was in the background as if playing on the hospital PA system. I saw my dad sitting beside me, watching me, and it was so surreal. At some point, I saw him get up and grab a cup of coffee and come back. It was like my dream was just what was happening around me, and my brain was trying to piece it all together like a reality that didn't exist. It made me feel like the world, as I knew, could simply be just in my mind. I woke up 2 hours later when my chemo infusion was done and looked at my dad. He looked at me funny, and I said, "What?" He said, "You freaked me out. You really just sat there for 2 hours, and you barely blinked." I didn't know what he meant, as I was still trying to piece things together from the dream that I just saw. I looked over and saw he was holding a cup of coffee, like the one that I saw him get. I realized this whole time that I wasn't asleep and I was not dreaming. That dream was literally just me sitting there blankly staring off into oblivion. I also was not wearing the headphones, and I had no idea what music I was hearing. OP then adds down in the comments, just because everyone is wishing me good luck on treatment, it went great, and now I am 7 months in remission. That was my first ever time on Benadryl during my first cycle. OP, congratulations on being in remission. And if you ever see this, I wish you a very happy and healthy life. Congrats, OP. That was Reddit After Hours, bringing you r/TrueOffMyChest. Thank you all for listening, and if you like these videos, like and subscribe as we put out new Reddit videos almost every single day, and leave a comment down below for any Reddit subs you would like to see us cover in the future.